Rachel Zegler then inexplicably continued to post herself in an empty theater for her own movie. She's literally the only person there. Meanwhile, the experience at Minecraft goes something like this.
Chicken
AMC's surprising pronouncement that it was pulling Disney's live-action Snow White remake from every one of its theaters sent ripples throughout the entertainment sphere.
You know what's interesting about all this is that the only person waiting in line to see Snow White was Rachel Zegler.
Disney had planned a grand unveiling, counting on the story's enduring legacy and the clout of its star-studded cast. Yet, in a twist few saw coming, AMC stated it saw no logical reason to keep the film on its screens.
Minecraft in the United States, in one weekend, made more money than Snow White has made globally after 3 weekends.
Attendance levels had plunged so low that showing it any longer seemed like a waste of space and potential earnings, resources better applied to films with stronger returns. Although the downward trend had been evident for a while, almost no one believed it would plunge to these depths.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
So we didn't do that this time.
Not even Disney's legendary PR engine, flush with near limitless funds, could rescue this reinterpretation from the swirling controversy surrounding it. New rumors and public kerfuffles only multiplied the backlash, aggravating fan discontent at every turn.
That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously, we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
And Disney had boasted a fresh angle on a treasured narrative, headlined by rising talent Rachel Zegler and anchored by the star power of Gal Gadot. But nearly every mistake that could happen did happen, culminating in AMC's extraordinary choice to remove the film from theaters long before it could attempt any last-minute rally.
There was an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece, talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now.
As industry insiders clamored to identify the central factor behind the debacle, some contended that audiences were weary of Disney's repeated reimaginings of its iconic library. Others pinned the blame on Rachel Zegler's very public meltdown, her incendiary opinions, and a studio PR push that felt contrived rather than genuine.
Yeah, I have a clip of it.
Oh, okay, great.
Her being a retard.
Okay.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White.
That laugh.
That is
not going to be saved by
you
the
wrote
prince.
it?
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Regardless of the precise trigger, the meager box office tallies and ceaseless negative commentary made AMC's withdrawal feel both inevitable and unavoidable. And the film's downfall evolved into its own warning tale. Joe Rogan devoted a lengthy podcast segment to pick apart the fiasco step by step.
Well, the primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
Contending that AMC's dramatic removal wasn't solely about lackluster revenue, but a cultural flashpoint, signifying that Disney's usual advantages, storied brand recognition, top-tier marketing, and a shining cast aren't guaranteed to secure a success.
You don't particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely when it got announced.
Snow White!
He wasn't a stalker, by the way.
Thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry.
The uproar drowned out every other element of the production. Rogan outlined the series of events leading to the blowout, spotlighting Rachel Zegler's unfiltered interviews, her contentious remarks on The View, and the social media posts that diverted sharply from Disney's preferred messaging.
Warner Brothers' Minecraft movie versus Disney's Snow White, which in theory should be quite a battle, but it's not even a fair fight.
The meltdown unfolded in front of a studio audience, turning a standard promotional appearance into tabloid fodder. From Rogan's perspective, the debacle would have been damaging under any conditions, but paired with a radical revamp of a cherished tale, it became a perfect storm for disaster.
And the cops had to escort the rowdy teenagers out. The Minecraft movie is doing something magical. It's creating a live audience reaction event.
When Rachel Zegler was first introduced as the lead, she generated buzz for her vocal prowess, her contemporary vibe, and her supposed capacity to bridge the tastes of younger and older viewers. But when details leaked about how drastically the film departed from key plot points and central themes, longtime fans suspected the essence of the original had been sacrificed. A wave of skepticism grew, with many believing Disney, in its zeal to modernize the tale, had stripped out the heart that originally made Snow White so beloved. Amid this growing unease, Zegler's off-screen persona only fueled the flames. Some of her remarks were interpreted as dismissive of the classic source material, at least by a chunk of the fan base, hinting that the original plot was outdated and unworthy of admiration. Outrage exploded across social platforms. Audiences who initially admired Zegler's casting began portraying her as the poster child for all that had gone wrong in the reimagining. And Disney attempted to avert a full-blown catastrophe with a blitz of talk show bookings, hoping to salvage the movie's reputation before opening day, but Zegler's unapologetic style clashed with Disney's more carefully scripted PR strategy. She routinely shared personal viewpoints online, insisting she wouldn't compromise her ideals just to fit the corporate narrative. Under other circumstances, this might have earned praise for authenticity. Here, it only inflamed the controversy surrounding a fan-favorite property. Critics argued that her commentary sounded condescending to those who loved the original, though her defenders said she was merely amplifying contemporary values and broad inclusiveness. Inevitably, the tension between an outspoken star and a global media behemoth became the main event, overshadowing anything resembling genuine artistic merit in the film. As chatter about a potential box office slump increased, speculation arose that Disney's top brass was growing distressed. Bob Iger, reinstated in a prominent leadership role, had a track record of deftly sidestepping PR scandals. But day by day, Disney's response grew more jumbled. Rather than a synchronized approach, observers noted contradictory statements from different cast members, leaks hinting at backstage disorder, and a broad sense that no one was effectively steering the narrative. The meltdown on The View exemplified this lack of cohesion. The daytime show was handpicked by Disney's PR team as a venue where Rachel Zegler could engage in friendly, relatable banter, assuring fans that while this adaptation was modern, it preserved the spirit of the age-old favorite. And behind the scenes, however, tensions ran high. Allegedly, The View's staff received explicit guidelines from Disney regarding the key talking points, the angles Zegler was supposed to promote, and sensitive issues to steer clear of. From the opening moments of the broadcast, it was apparent Rachel Zegler had her own plan. She zeroed in on hot-button socio-political issues unrelated to the film, showing little inclination to follow the predetermined talking points. The producers, under significant Disney pressure, attempted to keep her within bounds, but the friction was clear to everyone watching. Throughout the live exchange, she made statements later, branded by detractors as incendiary, claiming the original storyline felt antiquated and challenging longtime supporters to accept progress. Audiences already on the fence took these words as a personal slight, and the resulting outrage took over social media in an instant. Within moments, the meltdown materialized. Onlookers described frantic hand motions from off-camera as producers tried to pause or steer the discussion in a safer direction. Zegler refused to back down, doubling her stance. The interview spiraled so quickly that co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hostin struggled to manage the situation. Show personnel stepped in to escort Zegler off stage, and the broadcast cut to commercial prematurely. Although the meltdown didn't air in its entirety, both partial clips and eyewitness testimony circulated online at lightning speed, catapulting the story into a massive media spectacle. Internet humorists, meme makers, and debaters all pounced, guaranteeing the incident would color every future mention of the movie. On his podcast, Joe Rogan characterized the meltdown as a monumental PR failure. Disney not only relinquished control of the story, it did so in front of a live audience. Their subsequent damage control efforts were immediate, but by then it was too late. The meltdown had already evolved into a potent symbol for critics who viewed the new Snow White as an affront to a beloved piece of cultural history. Rachel Zegler's detractors used the fiasco to brand her as excessively self-willed in a project where corporate harmony was crucial. Advocates pushed back, framing her behavior as an expression of free speech. The ruckus gripped the press. overshadowing any attention the rest of the cast might have garnered, including Gal Gadot. And Gadot, initially expected to lend stability and gravitas through her star profile, was overshadowed by the Meltdown saga. Rumors of a private rift between the film's two leads surfaced, implying Zegler had criticized Gadot's personal history or convictions, none of which was ever confirmed, adding to the mounting impression of a production beset by discord. Gadot kept her distance publicly, issuing only generic endorsements of the film, which many saw as an effort to protect her standing. Regardless, what should have been a united promotional front descended into a swirl of speculation about internal hostilities. And fans reacted swiftly and harshly. Social feeds erupted with #NotMySnowWhite. Disappointed viewers felt betrayed by the radical changes made to the story, and many were also turned off by what they perceived as Zegler's disrespect for tradition. This discontent was evident in the film's disastrous opening weekend. Despite a hefty promotional campaign, it couldn't even match low-end revenue estimates. Theater chains like AMC, which had forecasted a blockbuster for all ages, found many seats empty. Parents chose competing titles instead, possibly due to the controversy, or simply because they were exhausted by the unending drama tied to the movie. And confronted with dreadful attendance, AMC faced a defining decision. In normal circumstances, major Disney releases enjoy a guaranteed theatrical run beneficial for both sides, but as the negative headlines persisted, AMC concluded that continuing with showings would only lead to more financial losses. Tickets were in such short supply that it made more sense to allocate screens to more reliable films. This project had turned into a liability, weighed down by a chain of high-profile scandals that expensive production values could not fix. Therefore, in an extraordinary move, particularly for a high-profile Disney release, AMC opted to discontinue screenings altogether. Implementation differed by market, but AMC's announcement soon confirmed the decision was final. When asked, AMC spokespeople pointed to the movie's disastrous attendance, deeming it no longer viable to keep on the roster. Leaked internal briefings underscored how disheartening the low turnout was for theater managers. Some reported that patrons openly scoffed at the movie, referencing the Meltdown controversy, leaving no business rationale to persist. Industry observers questioned whether AMC's rapport with Disney might be damaged. Others theorized that Disney quietly supported the withdrawal, as letting the film linger might just invite more humiliation. Joe Rogan hailed the move as a tipping point, arguing it reflected how even the tight-knit relationship between Disney and major theaters can fracture once a film becomes too toxic. Even a well-funded tentpole can be dropped if it fundamentally alienates its potential audience. He also highlighted how the meltdown on The View served as the final straw. Before that segment, some in the industry believed the film might attract viewers out of sheer curiosity, but once the clips of Zegler's meltdown exploded across the internet, any lingering interest turned into indifference or outright scorn. And that meltdown stripped away the illusion of normalcy, laying bare a production on the brink. It underscored the vulnerability of live promotional appearances, which can spiral wildly off script. Typically, these press tours are orchestrated to maintain consistent talking points, ensuring the featured star adheres to the PR blueprint. But in the unscripted environment of The View, producers were powerless to rein Zegler in once she began speaking candidly, leading to a fiasco that rattled entertainment media for days. Disney's subsequent censorship attempts only strengthened the view that the studio was scrambling for damage control rather than seeking genuine engagement. Suddenly, even casual observers couldn't resist gawking at the unfolding media circus. With Bob Iger back at Disney's helm in the midst of this debacle, many questioned whether the company's reliance on remakes remained wise. Historically, revisiting classic tales had been a goldmine, with brand recognition luring families back time and again. But the Snow White catastrophe showcased the risks. If controversy catches fire, even the most iconic legacy can unravel at the box office. Critics used the meltdown as proof that Disney had grown overconfident, believing it could revamp a cherished story without properly acknowledging its core elements. And this ordeal also highlighted a serious flaw in Disney's publicity machinery. Where the studio typically presents a united front among top-level leaders, marketing units, and on-screen talent, this time, unity was broken. Observers witnessed conflicting pronouncements, rumors of infighting on set, and a widespread sense of disarray, hinting at chaos behind the curtain. Particularly noteworthy were reports that even those in Disney's orbit had turned against Zegler. One anecdote suggested a producer's own child took to social media to slam her, branding her independence a hindrance to the film. Whether staged or genuine, it broadcast that internal disputes were no longer contained. Normally, such tensions remain buried in the background. And Zegler responded by insisting she'd been unfairly singled out as the fall person. Her backers echoed the sentiment, saying the film's fundamental redesign was destined to alienate core fans, even if she'd stuck rigidly to Disney's directives. But once AMC officially withdrew, all that was a moot point. Extracting a major Disney movie so quickly from theaters was no small event. Disney's live-action features generally enjoy sustained runs, sometimes stretching out for months. Watching this one vanish so abruptly underscored that not even one of the world's most celebrated studios is immune to a catastrophic flop when public backlash eclipses everything else. The meltdown so thoroughly tarnished the film's image that audiences now deemed it unworthy of attention or money. Speculation grew that other theater chains might follow AMC's example. Smaller exhibitors were already limiting screenings thanks to dismal turnout. AMC's broader reach ensured that its decision was a decisive blow. Being the largest theater chain nationwide, AMC publicly severed ties with Snow White. Joe Rogan noted that in an earlier era, Disney might have allowed a dud to run its course, expecting to recoup losses in home video or overseas. But in the era of endless online commentary and viral clips, the meltdown overshadowed every facet of the release. Even casual moviegoers, who only vaguely followed the story, had heard about the meltdown, binding the film's reputation to scandal rather than enchantment. And that single live TV explosion sealed the fate of Snow White, extinguishing any hope for a second wind and canceling out any praise that might otherwise have emerged for the project's merits. The debacle reignited the debate over the phrase box office poison. Some pundits warned against placing all the blame on Zegler, arguing that the drastic divergences from the treasured original were guaranteed to drive away fans. Others cited the movie's scattershot advertising campaign, which never clarified a consistent creative vision. Still, no one could deny that the meltdown on The View had become the pivotal event, inextricably tied to the film's disastrous receipts. Posters and promos had showcased Rachel Zegler, but once she stepped onto that daytime stage, all control of the conversation was lost. And Joe Rogan predicted that Disney might impose stricter clauses in future star contracts to rein in spontaneous outbursts. But he cautioned that such measures might backfire, since the public is quick to sense artificial messaging and may reject it. In his view, the meltdown highlighted the delicate balance between authenticity and brand fidelity. Zegler's meltdown was unquestionably genuine. It simply wasn't what the audience wanted to hear. And shortly after, discussions arose about shifting the movie to streaming ahead of schedule. Normally, Disney holds off on streaming to bolster theatrical returns, but AMC's departure could speed up its Disney Plus release. Still, dropping it early on streaming cements the narrative that it flopped. Rogan speculated that the fiasco would loom over both Disney and Rachel Zegler for a long time to come. Zegler's upcoming roles might draw heightened scrutiny from studios seeking to avoid another PR nightmare. Meanwhile, Disney faces serious questions about its remake formula. The meltdown showcased just how delicate the process of modernizing a classic can be without alienating those who hold the original dear. A humorous dimension emerged as talk show hosts and online satirists had a field day, joking about empty AMC screenings and the day Snow White bit the dust. Disney's long-maintained reputation took a notable dent, with the meltdown representing a collective outcry against what many perceived as corporate complacency. While remakes and fresh takes can work if approached with reverence for the source, fan skepticism turns to fury if they suspect the studio of belittling the legacy. Throw in the leading star's on-air meltdown, and that anger is amplified. Even the most capable PR staff couldn't spin this in a favorable light. When AMC, America's largest cinema chain, said it was finished, it delivered the final blow. The culminating image, AMC's official decision to discontinue showings, symbolized everything that went wrong. Instead of being commemorated for creative flair or dazzling visuals, this Snow White reboot will be eternally tied to the meltdown that obliterated its credibility and drove theaters to abandon it. It's a sobering lesson likely to alter how studios handle star personalities, marketing campaigns, and beloved properties in the coming years. After all, no one wants a repeat of the meltdown that everyone in Hollywood can't stop talking about.